Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, I got some must-see Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson rumors ahead of free agency. Then we're going to talk about some DK Metcalf trade news and what exactly it could potentially cost the Raiders if they wanted to trade for the Seahawks wide receiver. And these are going to be reports from multiple different NFL insiders out there of what they have heard it could potentially cost to go get DK Metcalf, somebody that's been linked to Pete Carroll and somebody that's been linked to the Las Vegas Raiders. Today's Raiders rumors are presented by Panda Subs. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasubs.com to get your hands on some of the best workout supplements on the market. My name is Mitchell Renz. I'm the host of the Raiders Report, and I'm going to walk you guys through some of the reports that have happened here around the Raiders. For those of you that do not know, we're going to be live every single day next week for NFL free agency. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. If the Raiders go out and they sign Russell Wilson, they sign Aaron Rodgers, I want you to be able to interact with us live while it happens. So the first story that I want to talk about today is around Russell Wilson potentially coming to Las Vegas. Right now, I'm going to give this one just win, baby, and say that there is a small chance that Russ ends up coming to Las Vegas. The reason why that I say that is there's a report out right now from somebody who's very well connected in Tampa Bay. And his name is Rob Maadi, and hopefully I pronounced that right. But I know Maadi is really, really well connected down in Tampa Bay, and I don't think a lot of Raiders fans know about him because this is Las Vegas, and he's got connections, obviously, to, I believe, somebody like John Spytek. The report was, though, that Russell Wilson is unlikely to go to the Raiders. Also, if you guys remember, we talked about it, probably a month ago at this point, Jay Glazer's report of that Russell Wilson was not going to go to the Raiders. And I thought that was interesting because Glazer is really, really close with Mike Tomlin. There's still a lot of speculation out there that the Steelers could try to bring back Russ, which I do find pretty interesting. But the quarterbacks that have been connected to the Silver and Black this offseason by Adam Schefter, Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson. Those are the only three quarterbacks that have been legitimately linked to the Raiders by a credible source. However, though, I do think that Schefter is missing a name, and the name that I believe that Schefter is missing is Aaron Rodgers. Quite frankly, based on everything that has happened this week, I am a believer that the Raiders adding Aaron Rodgers is more likely than the Raiders adding Russell Wilson when you really look at the reports from people that are close to the Steelers, that are close to Russell Wilson. It doesn't sound like he's coming to Las Vegas, and I do. I think Aaron Rodgers is more likely. So you know what? I want to play a game here, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. You got to pick one. You either got to go with Aaron Rodgers or you got to go with Russell Wilson. Type AR for Rodgers, RW for Russell Wilson. My answer is coming up here after this YouTube ad break. I'll admit, neither of those quarterbacks is in my top three. There are three other quarterbacks that I would rather the Raiders start this season than Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. But if you're telling me I got to pick between those two options, I am going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you haven't seen the report from Rob Maadi, this is what he had to say. Raiders would be an option for Aaron Rodgers if he could fit into offensive coordinator Chip Kelly's system. A team official told me last week the staff hasn't made that determination yet. It's been the exact same thought process that I have had. I know that Rodgers is a good quarterback, but I actually don't know if he's as good of a fit in Chip Kelly's offense as what a lot of people think. So are the Raiders interested in adding the 41-year-old Rodgers? I am going to give this one two just win babies, and people are talking. And the fact that people are talking about him, like a guy named Maxx Crosby, says to me that there is a possibility. So the Raiders don't know if they are interested in Rodgers. That is the report right now. The Raiders are still unsure if Rodgers fits what Chip Kelly's offensive scheme is, which I simply just think is Chip Kelly's offense is predicated on you at least got to have a quarterback that is a threat to run. You don't need a running quarterback, but you at least just got to be a threat to pick up a first down. There's a lot of run zone options. You need a mobile quarterback. It's when the offense, I would say, is at its peak. Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders offense means that you're trying to hit a single or a double. There's a part of me that wants to go for a home run. But Max did say that he would want Aaron Rodgers. And I think that when you look at the timeline of things that have happened here, it's very important to look at that timeline. So the initial report from Adam Schefter on Sam Darnold, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, that one happened on February 28th. Then On March 4th, Crosby comes out and says that he wants Aaron Rodgers. Then on March 5th, you see the Maadi report. Then a few hours later, Maxx Crosby signs an extension. My point is more of this. If the Raiders were super against what Max said, I don't know if they would have just gone out right away and given him the deal that they did. But the fact that the Raiders made Maxx Crosby the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history and front-loaded Max's contract the way that they did, that tells me that this team is trying to win right now, and they are giving themselves a 2-year window in order to do it. But the Raiders, they value what Crosby says. And if Rodgers was a 0% chance of happening, I actually don't think Crosby would have even uttered the words because of how close of a relationship he has with Mark Davis. If you didn't see the comments that 98 made on A-Rod, here's what he had to say. First year after an Achilles is one of the hardest things to do. I think with all the doubt, all the negativity around Aaron Rodgers, he needs to retire, things like that. He's getting cut by the Jets. I think he's going to come back, and I have a feeling that I know he's 42 or 41, but I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town. That would be legendary. When Maxx Crosby said that on his podcast, I actually stood up here on this live show and I go, when I hear that, that just tells me and screams that Max wants to be a Raider, and Max obviously is a Raider now for the long haul after signing a massive 3-year, $106 million with $91 million guaranteed. That's 5 years, $149 million. But the way that the Raiders front-loaded that contract, it tells me that they want to win, and they want to win right now. And if they feel like Aaron Rodgers helps them do that, that's one of those situations where everybody thought Tom Brady was washed. Tom Brady ended up winning the Super Bowl with John Spytek. Even though I think Aaron Rodgers is a diva in his own right and was a cancer in New York, if you told me I can win a Super Bowl, that's the only way that I'm on board with it. Coming up next here, though, on the show, the DK Metcalf trade news. I'll also say this. I'll put a video down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. If you want to see me break down why I would and why I wouldn't want the Raiders to go sign Rodgers, you can find that video down below. I already broke it down earlier in the week. We will get into the DK Metcalf trade news here in just a moment, but today's show is sponsored by Panda Subs, owned and operated by a diehard Raiders fan. And if you want to take advantage of his deal that he's got right now, he's got some super nootropics that come in flavors like pink lemonade, peach mango, strawberry watermelon. If you need some help to get better mental clarity, a little bit more energy to boost your mood, help. Sometimes, like when I do this show, I need like a creative boost, I guess, if you will. And just because you guys literally were hearing me talking about it when the show started, I didn't even remember how I even scripted the show to start. And I got a lot of stuff going on. But you know what? Because I got my super nootropics, which I absolutely love, when you are feeling like you're going to crash a little bit, and maybe you're a student, maybe you're working. Like, I can remember the first job that I had right out of college. I worked for this company, and dude, at 3 o'clock, I was ready for a nap. Like, every single time it happened. I also love caffeine. I'm trying to get away from, a lot of coffee. I love coffee in the morning, but, you get to like 4 or 5 cups in a day, and you're like, all right, bro, like, that's enough caffeine. A lot of energy drinks out there. I'm somebody that needs to be alert all the time. I'm always on call, especially in free agency. Super Nootropic is going to help me be my best version next week. People are going to go, Mitch, I can't believe you're bouncing back each and every day. Why? I got my Panda Subs routine. I got it down. Use code DRAFT for 25% off at pandasubs.com. Let's go to the final story here. Are the Raiders interested in trading for DK Metcalf? This one is for just win, babies. Believe it, baby. I'm telling everybody here right now, the Raiders are a team that has picked up the phone, and they have called the Seattle Seahawks about what it could potentially cost to trade for Metcalf. And he requested a trade on March 5th. Raiders are interested in multiple Seahawks wide receivers, whether it's Tyler Lockett, but I know that they're interested in Metcalf. And there's already been reports this offseason that the Raiders are looking for a wide receiver one to put with Jacoby Myers and put with Brock Bowers. Obviously, the connection to Pete Carroll, but the Raiders, knowing that they are looking for a one, knowing that they also have draft picks and the amount of money to be able to pay DK, are all reasons why I know the Raiders are interested. The problem is, though, I think everybody under the sun knows the Raiders are interested in DK Metcalf. But you can't just say, I'm interested, and you go out and get him. You got to be able to get him for the right price. And that's usually the way that these conversations go. So what I wanted to be able to do here, instead of just give you what I thought it was going to cost to go out and get DK Metcalf, I went through and I found multiple different reports from multiple different, respected NFL insiders out there about how much it could cost to get 14 in silver and black. Let's first talk about Dianna Russini and her report that came out bright and early on March 6th this morning. And it was this: the Seahawks are seeking a first and a third-round pick for DK Metcalf. That tells me that Dianna Russini talked to the Seattle Seahawks this morning, because nobody, and myself included, no way in hell am I giving up a first-round pick for DK after he told the entire world that he wants to be traded out of Seattle. Because he's going to get a deal somewhere around $30 million per year, that is going to lower his asking price. Let's also talk about Josina Anderson and her report that came out around DK Metcalf. And I'll tell you what, this makes me giggle a little bit, because she said, I am told there's a team willing to give up at least a third-round pick. Probably is why she blocked you. I mean, here's the thing. No disrespect to Josina, every other NFL team would be interested in DK Metcalf if it was only for a third-round pick. Josina also doubled down literally probably in the last hour since I'm live, and said that she was told by a source that Seattle's asking price is too high. But this was not the asking price. I actually think that Josina forgot to put in her tweet they're looking for a first and a third, because just saying that they're only looking for a third, I don't know who told Josina that. Maybe she's only talking to the Raiders. Let's go to Bill Barnwell here. He's from ESPN. He puts out a lot of different type of content around trades, free agency, all that type of stuff. So I was interested to see what he had to say about what he thought it could cost for the Raiders if they wanted to go out and get DK Metcalf. First, he said, not as much as what Seahawks fans might hope for. So that's right off the jump saying you're not getting a first and a third round pick. Also said that it depends on the teams trading for Metcalf, which is a duh, right? Like the Raiders, they need a wide receiver. When you look at some of the teams that he linked to DK, he linked 10 teams. If you want to go check out this article, it is on ESPN, though it is an ESPN Plus article. These were the 10 teams that he said made the most sense for DK. And he goes in deep length, honestly, of why each team could end up making the deal. One of the things that you just got to consider is the asking price. And when you see a trade go down like Christian Kirk going to the Houston Texans, and for Houston to be able to get Christian Kirk, you can say what you want about Kirk, right? You can say what you want. But they just got him for a 7th-round pick in 2026. When a player asks to be dealt, or when a team says that they're going to move on from you, your asking price goes down, a.k.a. Devontae Adams, right? So then he says the best estimate that he believes the Seahawks could get is a pick in the mid-40s, which that's obviously 40 to 49. That's a 2nd-round pick. Here's what Barnwell had to say. My best estimation is the Seahawks would be able to land something close to the draft capital of a pick in the 40s as part of a trade. That might mean getting a first-round pick and sending something back alongside him in return, or landing a selection toward the top of the 2nd round. The Raiders don't have a pick in the 40s, but they do have a pick at number 37. Well, there's a lot of DK Metcalf trade rumors, and there's a lot of teams out there that are going to show interest. But you got to be able to pay for them, and you got to have the draft capital that Seattle wants. So my question out there to you is, where will DK Metcalf play this upcoming season? My answers of the top 5 teams most likely to get him coming up after this YouTube ad break. Yes, the Raiders are on this list, but no, I do not think the Raiders are the number 1 team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been looking for a wide receiver 1 for almost 2 years now, and they have been connected to every single receiver. Believe me, I hear it all the time at Chat Sports. New England has the most money, where I think if, the Seattle Seahawks don't get the draft compensation they get, but they're still saying, hey, we want DK and we're going to go pay him, DK might even be able to force his way out. I have the Raiders at number 3, and then I can see the Bills and I can see the Chiefs, for obvious reasons, being interested in Mr. Metcalf. Let's go to the final team here, final thing. This one's from The Athletic. This is an article written by Tashawn Reed and The Athletic, where they kind of go through and they illustrate what it could potentially cost to bring in Metcalf. And again, very, very different sources, very different things that they are hearing. According to Tashawn, this was the trade that he would do for Metcalf. I'll be honest with you. I always say, I know our Raiders beat writers is what it is, but you also can't really take Tashawn, Vic, Vinny, Hondo's, I would say football IQ serious, because if you're the Raiders, this isn't a deal that I would want to do. Like, I don't want to give up a second and a third, and I know it's a third-round pick in next year's draft, but that's not what I would want to give up for Metcalf. That's a little bit too rich for my blood. Really, a second-round pick I think is going to be enough for him. Now, maybe Deshaun's here and a few other things, but if this is what Deshaun would do, it's just not what I would want to do for Mr. Metcalf. Here's what he had to say, though, on the Raiders making that deal. Obviously, the Raiders' first-round pick, number 6, is off limits, though a second and a third is still a hefty price to pay. It could be worth it to acquire a legitimate number 1 receiver. From a contract perspective, the Raiders would be offering Metcalf an average annual salary of $31.25 million, exceeding the mark the 49ers just gave Brandon Ayuk last year, but with less guaranteed money. If Metcalf's representatives play hardball, the team would be willing to guarantee some of that wideout 2025 base salary. Metcalf would be reunited with former Seahawks coach Pete Carroll, and he'd be Team Jacoby, tight end Brock Bowers to give the Raiders a scary pass-catching trio. Las Vegas would just need to find a quarterback who could get them the ball. Everything that he is saying in there, I agree with a lot of the things that The Athletic put, but the reason why you're not going to have to give up a second and you're not going to have to give up a third-round pick, even if it's in next year's draft, is because of the price tag. Knowing that a team has to pay DK Metcalf $30 million, there's not a lot of teams that have that flexibility, which then hurts the overall ability to go out and get him. So because of that, you're not going to have to give up nearly the amount. So in conclusion on today's show, Aaron Rodgers joining the Las Vegas Raiders is more likely than Russell Wilson. The Raiders are interested in DK Metcalf. However, anybody that says that they know how much it's going to cost or they know what the trade's going to look like is lying, because I just showed you 4 people that are all respected in their own regard, and it is all super, super different. What it's going to come down to is who meets the Seahawks' demands and who can pay DK Metcalf. My hope is it's the Las Vegas Raiders.